Hey, this is Jim again. I'm here to review the SV3C bullet camera. This is the SV3C 4K POE IP camera. It's an outdoor bullet camera rated at 8 megapixel or 4K. It does have power over Ethernet. It has smart motion detection, infrared color night vision. It's a field of view of 120 degrees. It does have two-way audio. It's got a weather-resistant metal shell. It does offer RTSP as well as RTMP. It does have an SD card slot to store photos and video locally, and it is Onvif Conformant. This is a very nice little unit. Let me bring up the little picture on it. So it's got a solid metal mounting base to allow you to mount it right side up, upside down, depending on what your video needs are. The cables included that are attached to the camera, it has a reset button. So if you need to reset the camera to factory default settings, you just depress it for about 10 seconds, it'll reset. It does have an RJ45 Ethernet port to connect to your network, and also it will accept PoE from it. And if you have no PoE available, it does have a 12-volt DC power adapter, so you can still apply external power. It does have a door on it at the bottom, as you can see here. So you just take off the two screws that will expose the inside workings, where if you look at the very bottom there to the left of the red and black twisted cables, you will see the slot where the SD card goes in. Again, that SD card can support up to 512 gigabits. So as you can tell, it will hold a lot of data before you have to overwrite. It works with most NVRs. I've had this connected to my SV3C NVR unit, so as long as it's Onvif Conformant, it should work with a network video recorder. It does support cloud storage and is accessible through an app on your phone, whether it's an iPhone or Android. And being 4K, it does provide excellent video resolution. It is a fixed angle. There is no pan, tilt, or zoom. It's just a fixed view camera. But again, it provides high quality. It does support multiple resolutions on a mainstream and substream. And as far as video compression, it has H.264, H.265, and H.265 plus. If I bring up the camera through an RTSP connection, as you can see, it provides a nice video. Now this is set up on vehicle detection, so all the vehicle detects, it puts a green square around it, and we'll try to track it as it goes along. And if you are mobile, you can use it with your phone. Now here I've got it set up on my iPhone. If it was a PTZ camera, the bottom half of the screen would have your PTZ controls, but again, this does not offer any of that. As far as pricing right now, if you go to Amazon, they're offering it for $79.99, but they do have I believe it's a 12% discount active right now, which will take down about $12. Or you can go to the SV3C website direct. Again, this is really handy for buying in volume. One $79.99, then depending on 5 or more units, you can get a quantity discount on that. Now, as far as setup of the camera, let me bring up the web page for it. Now, this is talking to the camera from a web page to this IP address. The standard username and password is admin. Password is 123456, which of course you can change the password at will to protect yourself from outside influence or any hackers. Now, right now, this is set up, you'll notice it's set up as a H.264, primarily because it needs that setting if you're doing any programming. I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. The substream's at 720 by 480. It is a variable bit rate. This is at 48 kilobits. Now, if I go to the mainstream, that will bring it up. Hopefully it will here. That'll bring it up to H.264, 3840 by 2160 with about a 1260 variable bit rate. Now, this one I do have set up the on-screen display, which what I'll do right now is let me get into the configuration. So on the configuration right now, you can see with the image, it does have a small picture of what the screen is seeing so that you can adjust as needed. It's got all your different, brightness, contrast, separation. It's got your backlight compensation setting, your highlight compensation, 2D, 3D noise reduction. Now, of course, being US, I've got this set up for 60 hertz for power frequency. You do have a horizon and vertical flip, so if you've had to mount the camera in a different orientation, you can adjust the picture for that. It does have the WDR wide dynamic range, which is a more advanced version of the backlight compensation. You can adjust that. And then over on the right side, you can have infrared, white light, or dual light, depending on what you want. I've got it set up so if it's looking for people, it won't overexpose the face. It does have some different other settings on that. On the on-screen display, you can enable it, which I have. I've got right now white text, small font size. Now I'm using the title, resolution, bit rate, time and day of week. So the time position is bottom right corner. I'm using what I would call the US version of month, date, year, hour, minute, second. It is set up for a 24-hour military clock. And the title position, which the title right now is just top left corner, but you could have a business name. You could have a specific camera, like camera number 1 or South parking lot camera, things like that. And then on your custom title, I've got a couple of custom titles. I've just put the name of the camera, put residence on the bottom left-hand side. And then for this video up in the upper right-hand side, I just put set up an operation. That way it does show you a little flexibility on what you can do. So if you need to have more detailed information, especially having to use this as evidence, it would give you a clarification of which camera it specifically is. And then on the video, like I said, I've got this set for H.264 primarily because as you can see the image here, that needs to be H.264 to get that image. If not, you won't see it. And then you've got your resolution, variable bit rate, the custom QP, which is the quantization parameters. If you enable it, you have your setting from 0 to 51, which are the options available under H.264 and H.265. If you have a low number, 0, and so forth, anything lower, it's going to give you higher quality with a lower compression rate. And if you go in the higher numbers up to 51, you're going to have higher compression and lower quality. So that's just something you have to look at. And you do have it for the mainstream substream. So the substream, you could decrease the quality if you're just using it as a secondary feed. This does have audio capability, which I've got disabled, so I didn't have any interruptions while I'm doing this video. But you can enable it easily, give your different encode types, G711, 711A, or AAC. Get your sample rate at 8 or 16,000, bit rate solid 64,000. And then the volume, you have your audio input and audio output, and you can either enable or disable the amplifier on that. So I'm not going to save anything, it's just go on from there. And then snapshot, you can enable the snapshot type of quality and you can set up how you want to take it. Now, network, basic. Now, right now, this is set up as static, but what I would do is if I'm getting ready to move this camera or take it someplace else, either for a test setup, quality control, or just a temporary surveillance, I would go and check the DHCP so that it would pull an IP address at the location that I can use the Onvif search tool to get the IP address of the camera, so I don't have to go in there and fiddle with the network settings on the camera on that. You do have a host name, which you can change if you want to, so it makes more sense than what you're looking for. Service ports, web and Onvif, the web enabled, Onvif enabled. Now, Onvif authentication, if you check that, then you would have to put the password in if you wanted to access it with Onvif. So I just leave it unchecked, so you don't have to worry about that. Control protocol just says basically if the control port is disabled, you cannot be discovered by a search tool. So I would leave that activated. Then the RTSP, the authentication, that does mean that, like right now, I do have an RTSP feed and Wirecast, so I do have to put in the username and password to be able to get the feed active. And then HIK is primarily a protocol used in China, so we won't have to worry about that. Peer-to-peer, it does offer peer-to-peer, so this simplifies your linkage between this camera and your smartphone or PC. So when you bring up, now this one uses the Video Link app. So when you install Video Link and ask to hook up a camera, you can either do it manually or you can tell it, use the QR code, and it will automatically set up the camera for you, which is really nice. If you are thinking about alarms, you can have an SMTP server set up so they can send emails of videos and or photos to that account that you specify. Same way with an FTP server. If you want the files saved at maybe a third-party site, then you can do that. Like I said, it does have real-time streaming protocol. You can either stream the mainstream or the substream. You can make it standard or compatible. You've got your port on there, and then you've got your, if you enable it, I'll go ahead and click enable here, save it. Then it should give you a stream ID once you set up, and the directions for it are down here at the bottom. Alarm service center, and the connect check. Now the connect check's kind of nice. Just make sure you have connectivity. You can put in your own destination right now. It's just Amazon will test. Come back. It is online. You can see that. Events, motion detection. You can enable it. Have different trigger recordings. You can do by time periods. Upload different things on that. And then what you look at is on your input output. I don't have anything enabled on it just because right now I'm not really using it that much. I am using Intelligent Detect. You can tell it has, you can use human, car, motorcycle, electric bike, bicycle, or fire. Now in this one, I've got it set up to detect all day. If you'll notice, there's a pickup truck and a couple of cars that have the green bar around them. That means it's detecting that, and it will try to track it as it goes through there. On storage, your general fig, you can use your memory card. Now on this one, I do allow override because it'll store quite a bit. But that way, instead of trying to trade out the card every days or weeks how much you have stored, you can just allow it to override. And I've got a 64 gigabit card, and like I said, it will take 512 gigabits. If you look at standard record schedule, you can have it record 24/7. Or if you're a man post, you may only want it to record after hours, or maybe record special events. So if something happens, you can go back and look at the video. And then device manager, SD2 is the card slot that it's in there. On this, you can tell that it's, you can format the card when you put it in. If you want to view any of the contents, you can unmount it first so that it saves everything safely before you take the card out. You can tell this was a 64 gigabit card. It's used about 7 gigabits, has about 52 gigabits left. Used about 12% of it since I've had it up on that. On the system, right now I just have a admin on here, but you can set up different users. This may come in handy if you don't want people to have access to different settings. You may just want to have like a user one or viewer one or something like that. You can put in there and set up the password. Device language, of course, you've got the different options. With us, it's English. Date and time, I am using an NTP server. I'm using the one for NIST. I do have daylight savings time enabled and tell the start and stop date of that. Factory reset, now you do have a retained network configuration, which is nice so that when you save your configuration, it will save your IP address and all the network data, so that if you have a problem with the camera, you have to reset it to factory configuration, you can come in, import the configuration, it will have at least the IP address and all your previous settings on that. And then you do have a restore to factory. If, say you're working around here, you screw something up so bad you don't know how to figure it out, just click it and start over again. Sometimes when you're making changes to the camera, you may have to do a factory reboot. Here it is right here. And then on upgrade, if you go to the SV3C site, they do have, for the A series, they do have a maintenance site, and they will show you different instructions, and they have firmware. Now, the last time I checked, which was before this video, there is no new firmware for this camera. It's still current. And then on your information, of course, it shows you, so here's your firmware version, MCA81. That is still what's current on that right now. So again, if I go back to live, oh, there it comes back up. So you can see now this one has 4. You've got it's hard picking up the 2 behind this tree, behind the truck on the left. But there's a truck on the left, 2 cars in the front, and then a truck on the right. So it's got the squares around them without any issue on that. Now, like I said, you can do the same thing with your phone if you want to. I think if I touch it here, I might be able to, I can do a split screen. I don't know if it will let me, I can do a record on here. You can go a config on there. You can look at the different sections, like here on the network config. It will get the configuration of the camera, so we'll have information on that for you. So that's just some things you can do with the camera. But again, for a camera that's under $100, it has the 4K resolution. It's pretty well I would say waterproof. To me, nothing's really waterproof because it's a crack or something. I was going to say this is a water-resistant housing. It does have the 2-way audio, 512 gigabit capacity on the record card, Onvif Conformant. Again, with the RTSP and RTMP configurations. And again, using a video link app either for your iPhone or Android. But I think this is a good camera for the price. And if I had a chance to buy more of them for expansion, I definitely will. Well, thanks for tuning in. I hope this answered most of your questions, and we'll see you down the road.